meeting beforehand with Ivanka Trump. The bulk of the time was with President-elect Donald Trump. I found it an extremely interesting conversation, and to be continued. And I'm just going to leave it at that. Thank you.
Former Vice President Al Gore was in Trump Tower earlier today, meeting with the president-elect and his daughter Ivanka Trump. And joining me now is Al Gore, whose climate reality project is currently live streaming its 6th annual 24 Hours of Reality. And Mr. Vice President, let me start with your meeting today. I know obviously it's not something you're going to give us the blow-by-blow record of, but did you come away encouraged, terrified, or somewhere in between?
Well, it was very interesting. I do think it was productive. I've used some of these words before, and I'm choosing them carefully in order to not give too many details, and I hope you'll understand that,
yep.
Chris. By the way, I really appreciate your personal coverage of the climate crisis. You're one of the few that comes back to it over and over again. And my own concern about it led me to this meeting today. I was very grateful to be asked to come by. I'm here for this 24 hours. I can see 30 Rock where you're sitting right now, just across the river from Liberty State Park. And if folks want to see 24 Hours of Reality, thank you for mentioning it. It's on the internet, 24hoursofreality.org. The meeting was a good one, I thought. We covered a lot of ground. The reason I'm not going into details may be obvious. I always protected the privacy of my conversations with President Clinton during the 8 years I was vice president, and I think the president-elect, Donald Trump, is entitled to that same courtesy. I look forward to having other conversations, and that's yet another reason why I want to protect the privacy of it. It was a very intelligent exchange. It was a search for common ground. And in answer to your question, I felt good about the meeting. Of course, we're in this wait-and-see period, but I was very I was happy to have the opportunity and happy with the exchange of views.
You know, there's, as you do this year's Climate Reality 24-hour live stream, it's a real important moment. Every moment for the climate has been important, but this is a really key one. Some real progress has been made, whether it's the bilateral deal with China, the Paris Accords, the EPA ruling, which has been held up in the courts. I mean, all of that appears to be undoable, or maybe not. I wonder what you think of how high the risk is of all of that being essentially erased.
No, I think the momentum is unstoppable now. We're winning this. We're going to win it. There is a serious question as to how fast we will win it. And that's crucial because we're adding another 110 million tons today of man-made global warming pollution, and it's building up. And I won't give you the parade of horribles. You know them very well, but it's a very serious threat to the future of our civilization. That sounds apocalyptic, and some people kind of push it away and say, I don't want to think about that. But we have an obligation to our kids, our grandkids, ourselves, because we're seeing the increased frequency and severity of these extreme weather events, the sea level rises accelerating, et cetera, et cetera. And here is the most exciting part, Chris. The cost of renewable energy and efficiency with the digital tools industry and business and all of us have now, it is actually bringing emissions down. We can win this and create jobs and opportunity in the process. And one other thing. You're right. Paris was a big deal, but since Paris, Paris was designed in part to send a powerful signal to business, industry, civil society. The good news since then, you saw it in Morocco earlier, a few weeks ago. You saw it at the C40, the Big Cities Conference in Mexico City last week. That signal has been received very powerfully. The mood worldwide is completely changed now.
Is that really true?
Investors are changing.
That's really true. I mean, because I feel like when you're looking at geopolitics, the mood worldwide is between Brexit and Donald Trump, the rise of right-wing nationalist parties in Europe that want to either withdraw from the EU or sort of regain some kind of sovereignty they feel they've lost. There's this kind of darkness hanging over people's assessment of the current geopolitical situation.
Yeah, but it's a mistake to just say darkness covering everything.
Right.
You know, look, we've seen these twin trends of hyper-globalization with outsourcing, flinging jobs to low-wage environments, and the addition of increasingly effective forms of artificial intelligence to automation, which is overturning a few centuries of economic theory and leading to the conclusion that maybe intelligent automation is actually destroying more jobs than it's creating. These two things together are hollowing out the middle class in countries around the world. And because the returns from the investment of labor and capital and resources is now going much more to the owners of technology capital, inequality is rising simultaneously. And these things have all contributed to the end of an era and a searching for a new kind of a new blueprint, a new path forward. But it's not true that the populist uprising is directed against renewable energy. Quite to the contrary. In Florida, for example, at the same time Donald Trump was winning the state handily, the fossil fuel burning utility was losing badly and did lose a constitutional amendment to try to stop solar. Solar installations are just exploding all over the world. Probably the wrong metaphor. They're increasing so dramatically, and the cost is coming down so rapidly. The latest world record contract, 2.42 cents per kilowatt hour, that is just about half of the cost of producing electricity from coal. And it's crossing that grid parity line to become cheaper than coal electricity and gas electricity in region after region, country after country, and it's continuing to come down in cost. And the Internet of Things and the new digital tools I mentioned earlier are giving businesses and industries and homeowners fantastic new opportunities to decrease consumption without hurting the quality of life, saving on their energy bills at the same time that the emissions are being reduced. So I think the sustainability revolution worldwide is now, it's becoming clear, it's on par with the agricultural and industrial revolution. It has that scope, but with the speed of the information and digital revolution. It's just sweeping the world. We're going to meet the targets in the U.S. almost regardless of what policies the incoming administration adopts. But as I've said before, I don't think it's Pollyannish or naive to believe that we can expect more than what we fear. And I do think that this uprising of support for energy independence, not only at a national level, but at a homeowner level, give us the chance to put the solar panels up there. We don't want to be just continually fleeced by these old coal-burning, gas-burning utilities. We want energy choices. Go ahead. Yeah,
well, without sort of betraying confidences from your meeting, I mean, you met with two people today. You met with Donald Trump and you met with Ivanka, and there had been some ideas floated that she would be a climate czar, or et cetera. She and her husband obviously have contributed a lot to Democrats in the past financially. Did you get a sense from her where she is on the kind of basic consensus view on climate?
Well, again, forgive me for protecting the confidence of the conversations, but it's no secret that Ivanka Trump is very committed to having a climate policy that makes sense for our country and for our world. And that was certainly evident in the conversation that I had with her before the conversation with the president-elect. And I appreciate the fact that she is very concerned about this. And I very much appreciate the opportunity I had to have a meaningful and productive conversation with the president-elect.
Let me ask you this on politics, because sometimes when I think about the trajectory of climate policy in the U.S., there's of course Kyoto in 2000 and George W. Bush, and we've now had 7 elections in which in the United States, which Democrats have won the majority of the popular vote 6 of those 7 times and achieved the presidency only 4 of those 7. You obviously are one of the people that fate befell in 2000 when you won the popular vote by about 500,000 votes. Hillary Clinton's now won it by a somewhat staggering margin, actually. 2 percentage points, 2.6, 2.7 million votes. You think you've come to the belief we should get rid of the Electoral College. What got you there, and do you think it's possible?
Well, first of all, even after the Supreme Court decision in 2000, I did continue to support the Electoral College for some of the same reasons the founders laid out 2.25 centuries ago. It does bind the states together, and it's not a simplistic choice, all clear one way, all wrong the other way. I think it's a balancing test. For me personally, in the last couple of years, I've come to the conclusion that the balance has shifted in my own way of thinking about it, partly because I do think that we would have a chance to really increase participation in our democracy if we went to a popular vote. We should combine it with action to fix this terrible redistricting travesty that biases the House of Representatives elections. And of course, even though it's difficult, we need to get big money out of politics. Our democracy's been hacked. Big money now does so often call the shots, and that's really destructive to our democracy. I think if we took those 3 steps, we could actually bring our democracy back to life. At the moment, when we're seeing the invigoration of internet-based forms of democratic discourse with all of the problems, fake news and all the rest, I do think that it still does hold out the promise of reinvigorating the promise of America and allowing us to once again harvest the wisdom of crowds, because we are way smarter together than the smartest people among us, and that's what made us the greatest nation on earth, when we were able to make better decisions by using our representative democracy. It has not been serving us well recently because it's been hacked by special interests, big money contributors. The politicians and candidates spend all their money begging rich people and special interests for money. It's a terrible development. We have to fix that. But I do think that shifting to the popular vote would be a way to do it. Now, you also asked, do I think it will happen? You know, constitutional amendments are very tough, but you know, there is this interesting state compact movement that began in California that is another way to accomplish the same result. I actually think they have a real chance of succeeding. It'll take a little time, but I'd be surprised if we did not eventually shift to a popular vote for president over the next decade or so.
That's National Popular Vote. You can look that up online. Al Gore, what a great pleasure. Thanks so much for your time tonight. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Chris.
Up next, Al Gore isn't the only high-profile person to recently meet with Donald Trump and his daughter. New questions about why Ivanka Trump was in the room while the president-elect met with a foreign leader next.